Today I'm going to show you my 5-step framework from going from $0 to $150,000 plus per year, and it will stop you from making the biggest mistake that prevents most people from ever getting there. But first, why should you listen to anything I have to say? Well, last year I was in the top 2 to 3% of earners in the UK. But more importantly, I got there about 4 times faster than I would have if my earnings had increased at the average rate. And I don't say this to boast, I don't think I did anything particularly special. But 3 years of trial and error, I discovered a relationship between skills and earning. And once I started to see the pattern in my earnings, I started seeing it everywhere. Whether that was in my team members, colleagues, employees, or clients, the pattern was the same. I could instantly tell who was going to have rapid earnings growth and who wouldn't. Plus, I saw from my clients how I could go from where I was last year of just over 150k to the high 6, 7, or even 8 figures per year. This framework isn't a get-rich-quick scheme or a specific business model, but it is a simple way to quickly increase your value in the market. And increasing your value is the best way to earn more money, either as a business owner or employee. There are 5 stages to the framework, and as you complete each stage, your earnings will dramatically increase. So first, I'll give you an overview of the whole framework, and then we'll go into the tactics of each stage. So, let me introduce you to the skill framework. The 5 stages are S, select your core skill, K, keep building your knowledge, I, incorporate a stack, L, level up your leverage, and L, lead others. And as you'll see from this graph, each stage correlated with a big jump in earnings for me. By the end of this video, you should know exactly what stage you're at and have an actionable plan on what to do to jump to the next level of earning. So the first stage is to select your core skill. I've seen so many people waste years of their life and tens of thousands of dollars just because they trained and started a career in the wrong skill. So how do you select your core skill correctly? Well, there are 2 areas to cover here. First, I'll explain what you're looking for in a core skill, and then I'll show you a quick technique to find your unique skill, even if you feel like you don't have one. I discovered this stage quite early in my career. Back in school, I was good at art and engineering, but I hated the bureaucracy of traditional engineering and I wanted to be more creative. And honestly, I also wanted to make more money than most engineers do. Luckily, someone showed me that with those strengths, I could have a career as a software developer instead. And this one change made me more money, let me be more creative, and made me way happier overall. So for your core skill, you're looking for 2 things. First, a strength that you find interesting, and you're naturally good at. Being naturally good at something makes it more enjoyable, which makes you want to do it more. And this powerful loop sounds simple, but it makes you insanely good at things. Next, you need to find a skill that's high earning. Now, if you've listed out all your strengths and none seem like an obvious fit, then you need the second part of this stage. Here we'll find skills that match your strengths and avoid the problems that your strengths would normally have. So, list all of your strengths and the main problem for each of them. Then we're going to go to ChatGPT and use this prompt. What careers would suit someone good at your strength, but have solution to your problem? It will then show you ways to apply your strengths to careers that solve your problems. Research each answer and pick the one that you're most excited about. The more excited you are by the skill, the easier the next stage will be. K, keep building your knowledge. Now you have a skill, you need to get good at it fast. If you aren't way above average in your skill, the rest of the framework won't work and you'll get stuck. So don't try to skip this step. I started to really focus on this in my early 20s. Back then, I could build basic websites like WordPress or Shopify stores, but I couldn't make apps, which is where I knew the real money was. So while I was building websites in my day job, I also built an app in the evenings. I became absolutely obsessed with app frameworks and realized I could use similar ones in my day job and in the evenings building the app. And doing this meant I could compound my learnings, and within 4 months, I'd built my first app. And by doing that, I'd massively increased my earning capacity. So for this stage, there's 2 things to understand. 1, how to learn things fast, and 2, how to know when you're ready to move to the next stage. To learn things fast, here are my 2 biggest tips. First, start a project once you know the absolute basics. It's so much easier to learn when you have a target. You retain information better, and you have more drive to keep learning as you actually have a rewarding goal in sight. Second, you need to make it your sole focus, your obsession. Make it your only priority for 3 months, 6 months, or 2 years. However long it takes for you to get good. And that brings us to the question, how good is good enough to move on? Well, rather than giving you a salary or a title to try and get, you can actually judge it by how you feel. Once it starts to feel easy on a daily basis, and you can identify mistakes in other people's work, then you're over the bulk of the learning. And at this point, moving on to the next stage is essential. In fact, getting stuck at the second stage is the single biggest reason most people never make it to 150k per year. Far too many people learn one skill and then just slowly get better at it forever. And if you do that, you'll be stuck in that pool of senior designers, senior developers, or senior whatevers forever. And when I eventually realized this, was the moment everything started to click. After a while in my career, I started to notice that all the people who increased their earnings quickly had one thing in common. They weren't just good at one thing. They did each have a core skill, but they also had some supporting skills that made each of them unique. And this combination made them much more valuable, and as a result, they earned way more. And when I did this myself, my earnings nearly doubled in just a couple of years. So, in this section, I'm going to show you what a supporting stack is, why it makes you so valuable, and then how to start building yours. So, to understand a supporting skill stack, let's look at this diagram again. Each circle here is a skill. The bigger it is, the more you know about it. On the left is what most people do. They slowly increase this one skill more and more. This has two problems. Firstly, you're not unique. You're competing against all the other people that have this one skill. And secondly, the more you know, the harder it gets to meaningfully increase your knowledge. Every increase is only a tiny change to your knowledge overall. On the other hand, this is what happens when you incorporate a skill stack. Rather than making small increases to your core skill, you make huge increases to your supporting skills. Now, because you have a unique combination of skills, you become dramatically more valuable because you can solve unique problems. If you can code and manage people, you can create big tech products. And equally, if you can create UI and have good sales skills, then you can sell designs to clients. And because it's much less common to be able to do these combined roles, you're worth much more money. So, how do you incorporate a stack? Well, invest 80% of the time you would spend learning about your core skill on learning support skills instead, while leaving 20% so you can stay on top of your core skill. Pick one supporting skill, learn it for a few months using the process from the last stage, and repeat this process for 2 to 3 skills. And here are some supporting skills that work for pretty much everyone. But make sure to pick skills that suit you and add them to your skill set. Pretty quickly, you'll be able to do things that no one else around you can, and that's when you'll experience a huge spike in earnings. At this point, you should be making well over 100k, but we're not done yet. So let's discuss how we go from 100 to 150 and beyond. Now, once you're able to solve complex problems with your unique skill stack, you're going to run into a new challenge. You'll know how to solve much more than you can do yourself. This sounds like a great problem, I know, but it can become incredibly frustrating. I reached this point myself in my mid-20s, and I almost burnt out before I worked out how to solve it. But once I did, I quickly moved from the 100k mark to 150k. And it's how I intend to keep going into the hundreds of thousands. The solution is to level up your leverage. You need to increase your ability to supply solutions and increase demand for your solutions. First, on the supply side, you can do this in 2 ways. You can hire people to take one of your skills and do it for you. 2, use automation to increase your output. You can use systems, software products, or AI to dramatically increase your own output. But that's only half the equation. As you increase your ability to supply solutions, you may also need to increase the demand for them. And this is especially true if you work for yourself. After all, there's no point being the best if no one knows you exist. You need to get your name and brand out into the market, and you can do that with either paid or organic social content. If you can increase demand for your skills and you can supply them all, your earnings will increase dramatically. And once you've created more demand than you can ever service, even with all your leverage, it's time to move to the final stage. L. Lead others. This is the stage where the wheels completely come off and you can make 7 or even 8 figures a year. I've seen what happens firsthand when you hit this critical point of leverage. I've seen people literally 10x their earnings in less than 12 months. And I was lucky enough to look inside these businesses and get to understand how they grew so quickly. Honestly, the stage is really simple. You productize all of your knowledge and then you teach people at scale. Now you've got an incredibly valuable skill set and way too much demand to be able to ever service everyone yourself. So the best thing you can do is give people the tools and knowledge to do it themselves. I've helped my clients to do this for years, and the more I did, the more I realized the true power of teaching people at scale. This is how you get to help thousands of people while making 7 or 8 figures a year doing something you love. Now I appreciate for a lot of people that's a long way off. So to ensure you stay on track at every stage, I've created a free workbook that you can download in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this useful. Have a great day.